So, now that I have my necessary dose of coffee, I wanted to show you guys how I built my Mason Resolution. I've shown you how I unboxed the frame set, but today I wanted to take the time and talk to you guys about how I built the bike, what kind of challenges I had, how I overcame them, and yeah, how I built the bike up from scratch. So, let's get into it. Alright, let's start with a quick overview of how I'm going to build this bike. As you can see, I'm in my office. If you're interested to see what it looks like, I will link a video here. To begin with, we will put some carbon paste on the seat post so that it doesn't slide around and we don't have to torque it too much. And we'll put it in the frame, and then once we are done with that, we put the frame up in the bike stand. The bike stand is a very cheap one from Rose Bikes. If I should make a video about it, please let me know. And also during my bike build I want to stay caffeinated. Next up we will start by unpacking the headset assembly, which comes very neatly pre-packed, and then we will start by preparing the fork for the cut down. So to do that we will put the fork in with all of the headset parts and the necessary spaces that I want to use, as well as the stem. So after everything is on there, we can mark the fork and cut it properly to size. So as you can see, I'm just putting down all of the necessary parts. I'm using 2 centimeters of headset spacers, and then put the stem down, mark it so that we know where to cut. Always make sure to also cut a little bit around the edge so you don't accidentally take a carbon imperfection as the cut mark. And once everything is disassembled, we can get to the cutting part. The cutting tools that I'm using are actually very cheap ones. I think the saw is a metal saw from my local hardware store, and the cut guide is from Aliexpress and was like 2 francs or something, 2 euros. Then we will get to the fork assembly. So first of all we have to put in the expander plug so that we can screw down our headset top cap. First of all we will put some grease on the lower headset bearing. Insert that. I've also greased the top part, of course. Always grease your bike, especially your headset. It'll take a lot of abrasion. Then insert the spacers, and after that the stem. This is a 70mm stem, I think, and once everything is seated and, as in the case here, sits pretty well, you can screw down the top cap. Only after you have already screwed down the top cap you are ready to then screw down the stem. Otherwise, if you screw down the stem first, the top cap will not do its necessary function to compress the whole assembly so that the bearings don't have any play. And once the stem is tightened down and the whole thing moves as it is supposed to, we are now ready to put in the handlebars. These are very cheap aluminium handlebars from Aliexpress. They were around 15 euros and they are 40 centimeters wide and have a 70mm reach, and I really like these kind of short reach handlebars. Makes it the seating position very comfortable, great for long rides. And while I'm brabbling on, you have probably already seen that we are going to build this bike with the Sram Rival Access Groupset. This is a 1x Groupset, fully electric. Really love it for the simplicity, very easy to assembly and great to set up. But before we can get to the proper installation, we first have to prepare the frame. I've forgotten a couple of nips and bobs here and there, so I'll take this off, and after that we'll be able to unscrew the hydraulic hose from the levers. This can be quite a tedious task because you have to use 2 different sizes of hex keys, a 10mm and an 8mm. The 10mm hex key is used to hold the first hose part, the part that the hose slides into, in place, and the 8mm hex key is used to unscrew the actual screw from the hose. But even this task is done after a couple of minutes at most, and then we are ready to cut down the hose. Always make sure to leave as much hose as possible, so that in case you want to run a longer stem or maybe handlebars with longer reach, that you are still able to do that without needing to completely reroute the whole braking system. That can be quite annoying and has definitely never happened to me in the past. But regardless, now we are ready to screw down the front brake caliper to the fork. These takes T25 bolts, which are quite soft, I have to say. So I rounded up the lower bolt here quite a bit, and I've used some, not so old tools. So I don't know why, but yeah, that was a bit annoying. And after we have done that, we are ready to screw down the two-part olive system that Sram uses. So first you screw down a screw, and then the olive screws on top of the screw and then compresses the hose so that it seals in a tight bond. After that is done, we can insert the hose and screw it down as needed with the same hex key assembly of the 10mm and the 8mm hex key, just the way we unscrewed them. After we are done with the front brake, we are ready to do the same for the rear brake, because the process is quite similar, actually literally the same, just from the back. I will just glance over it and we'll go over to the next important part, which is the bottom bracket assembly. This bike takes the BSA bottom bracket standard, which I quite love because it's very not prone to creaking. I've had an old Cannondale with press fit bearings, and that always used to creak, so I'm very happy with the threaded system here. The assembly with the BSA system is also quite a bit easier than doing press fit. In this case, you just have to screw it in. Don't have to use any specialty tools, except for one, which I'll get to in a second, because the reason why you only see me hand threading here is because my other bottom bracket tool, tightening tool, does not work for the SRAM standard. So I had to order a special SRAM BSA assembly tool, which took a couple of days to arrive, so yeah. Nevertheless, I have to say all of these SRAM parts were very neatly packed, very safe, no issues whatsoever. All of the parts were included, and yeah, with that we already get to some of the more exciting parts in this build process. And for me, it is the first time I assemble and in the end also use a electronic group set. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how that performs. And here we will start by screwing on the derailleur to the derailleur hanger, and then we can get on with the crankset. The crankset is the standard SRAM rival crankset that always comes with the Access group set, and in this case it has 40 teeth at the front, and the assembly process is quite straightforward. In this case I started with the non-drive side, slide it in, get the drive side, screw it together, make sure you have all the spaces inside, and that's about it. And with the crankset assembled, we are basically done with the most important parts of the bike, or the most essential parts, let's say. And now we get to a very exciting piece that I got off Aliexpress, and these are two bottle cages, two fully titanium bottle cages, which were only around 12 euros each. Have amazing quality, look great, the machining is very well done, and I think they look awesome on the blue, kind of dark blue frame set that is the Mason resolution here. And with the bottle cages screwed in, let's make the bike actually look like a bike. And what better way to do that by putting on the wheel set. So these are the Elite ENT wheels from Aliexpress. They are actually quite cheap at 350 euros for a 50mm deep carbon wheel set. I'm very happy with the build quality. I checked all of the edges, I checked the internal rim, everything looked quite proper to me. What I did have a problem with, as you can maybe hear in the background, is setting the brake, and the problem in this case was that the SRAM rival standard screws are too long for this frame set, so the screws reach the end of the caliper when screwed in, so that way you cannot properly
align them. I had to get around that by using some other screws I had lying around. But keep in mind, if you buy the Mason Resolution and you get the Sram Rival Access group set, the standard screws in the back, at least one of them, will not fit properly. But after some time fiddling around with that annoying screw, also that problem is resolved and we can get back to the fun stuff. And in this case, for the first time, I am syncing the derailleur cage of the SRAM Access group set with the levers, which is quite a straightforward process. You get the app, you sync the levers with the derailleur, and after that you can micro adjust in the app very easily. Can really recommend using that system. And synced up and ready to go, we can now take out the chain from the box, which was quite a difficult process. As you can see here, I had to use all of my elbow grease to get it out, but also that is done after a couple of seconds. And then we can put on the chain and start sizing it. In this case, I used the big chain sizing operation, let's say. So you put it on the big ring in the back and the big ring in the front, which in this case is only one. And then you line up the last fitting link and count 2 links down from that. Then you just cut it out and put on the master link, and hopefully, if everything is done right, it should be the correct chain sizing, which in this case it worked perfectly fine. And once the chain is put together, we can put it on the big chain ring and then slap together the master link so it engages and is set. And then we go for a little spin test, and as you can hear, it is quite loud, which I have to say I really like. Some find it obnoxious, but it's fun when you're riding down the alpine tracks here in and around Lucerne. The saddle that I'm putting on this bike in the video is the Selle Italia Inflite, but I quickly changed it out for the Aliexpress brand Riot, which is a full carbon saddle, which fits my butt a bit better. But yeah. With the saddle being the last part of this bike build, we now get to the part of wrapping the handlebar tape and fixating the hoses to the handlebar, which I do with electrical tape, but I think most of the people building bikes do that. Very cheap, holds very well. Doesn't really corrode or lose its strength, so it's kind of perfect for that. The bar tape that I'm using here is also from Aliexpress. I will try to find the link for it, but it was quite cheap, but not the cheapest one. I think it was around €4.50 for the pair. And I have to say, after the 500 kilometers I've ridden it now, it's very grippy. I really like it, and it's holding up well. Let's see if that's still the case in the next couple of hundreds or thousands of kilometers. But up until now, nothing bad to report. And the last thing that has to be done is to insert the bar end plugs into the handlebar so that the handlebar tape is secured in place. And with that being done, the very final adjustment is to set the saddle to be quite even. I really like it flat, no tilt whatsoever, which I'm trying to achieve here. And yeah, that is the full bike as you can see it now. In my opinion, beautiful vintage inspired Mason Resolution with the Elite wheel frame set. Really looks nice with the 50mm deep wheels. And yeah, we'll report soon on how it rides and give you a ride impression. But up until then, I hope you liked the video. If you've gotten anything out of it, please consider liking or subscribing. And in any case, have a great week. Bye bye.